Hello and welcome to Baiju's Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to the big news of the day. The topic for today is the rights of prisoners of war or POWs under the Geneva Convention. This topic is in news because reports have emerged from the Russia-Ukraine conflict that the rights of POWs have been violated on both the sides. There have been disturbing reports from Ukraine that both sides have allegedly been committing war crimes by torturing or killing the captured POWs, or by humiliating them, or by mistreating them. For example, recently Ukraine held a press conference in which it paraded the Russian POWs, and reportedly Ukrainian forces even made calls to the families of captured POWs, and all these acts are said to violate international law, and it is said to violate the rights that have been guaranteed to POWs under international humanitarian law. The topic of POWs is also in news because recently Russia and Ukraine exchanged their POWs, and this was the first such soldier to soldier swap since the war began in Ukraine. So, first, let's understand who are POWs. POWs are those prisoners of war who are essentially combatants in an international armed conflict who have been captured by the enemy. They would include the members of the armed forces, the members of militia or any other paramilitary forces who would have taken part in any such international armed conflict. It also includes those persons accompanying the armed forces without belonging to them, and as well as civilians who take up arms en masse during an international armed conflict. As per international humanitarian law, even captured journalists during a war are entitled to the same protection as that of POWs. See, historically, POWs have always been mistreated in any conflict. Especially during ancient times, at the end of a war, the POWs were invariably slaughtered or even enslaved, and this was despite every civilization and religion promoting the values of morality and humanity. Amongst the earliest references with regard to laws of war and the consequences for breaking them was illustrated in the Mahabharata, in which Ashwatthama is condemned to an everlasting life of solitude for having killed innocents in their sleep. Even the Manusmriti contains explicit references with regard to laws of war and the humane treatment of prisoners. Even the Dhamma, as prescribed by Buddhism, adopts the principles that abjures violence and promotes respect for humans during war, and this was epitomized by the nobility of Emperor Ashoka, who witnessed absolute carnage and brutality during the wars fought by his regime. You find similar references across religions and civilizations, and even in Zoroastrianism, the preachings of Zoroaster, and in Christianity, the Sermon on the Mount of Jesus Christ, and also in Islam, the Ten Commandments of Abu Bakr, the companion of Prophet Muhammad. They all lay down the laws of war and how prisoners have to be treated with humanity. But despite these civilizational and religious values, we had witnessed massive brutality during conflicts in the ancient and medieval times. The same continued in modern times as well. But things started changing in 1648 when the Treaty of Peace of Westphalia was signed, which ended a 30-year war in Europe and established that POWs would be released without any ransom or without torturing them or abusing their rights at the end of hostilities. But despite this treaty, massive brutalities and violations were reported during the World War. And since then, we have come a long way with regard to protecting the rights of POWs. And today, they are enshrined under international humanitarian law known as the Geneva Conventions of 1949, under which the Third Convention in particular and some of the additional protocols provide for the rights and protection of POWs in conflict. See, the basis of modern day international humanitarian law is formed by three respective conventions and laws. This includes the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948, the Geneva Conventions of 1949, along with the Laws of The Hague. These constitute the international humanitarian law which takes effect during armed conflicts. Amongst these, the Geneva Convention of 1949 has been specifically designed to deal with armed conflict, and it covers four categories. There are four Geneva Convention laws, under which Convention 1 provides for improving the conditions of the wounded and the sick of the armed forces who are fighting on land. Convention 2 seeks to improve the conditions of those who are shipwrecked and other members of the armed forces fighting at sea. Then we have the third convention that specifically deals with the treatment of POWs and recognizes their rights and duties. And Convention 4 deals with protection of civilians during times of war. To these laws of the Geneva Convention, which were adopted in 1949, three additional protocols have also been added. Two of them were added in 1977, which covered armed conflict, which is of a non-international character. And the third additional protocol was added in 2005, through which a red crystal was added to the Red Cross and Red Crescent as valid symbols of the Red Cross movement. This is where you should know about the role of ICRC, or the International Committee of Red Cross, or also popularly known as the Red Cross movement. This international NGO, established in 1863, has been playing a pivotal role in all armed conflicts. And under the Geneva Conventions, the ICRC has a primary responsibility to protect the victims of armed conflicts and to provide them with assistance. This institution is based out of Geneva, Switzerland, and for the phenomenal role it has performed in armed conflicts in protecting human rights, particularly the rights of combatants and non-combatants, the ICRC has even been awarded with the Nobel Peace Prize for 3 years in its history of existence. As per the Geneva Convention, POWs have the right to be not prosecuted just on the basis of the fact that they took part in the armed conflict. However, they might be prosecuted for war crimes that they might have committed during the war. According to Geneva Convention, POWs must be released and repatriated. That is, they should be sent back to their home country at the end of the hostilities. The detaining power, that is the country which has detained them, is largely responsible for the overall well-being of POWs, and POWs have also been entitled to a set of rights, along with a set of duties being placed upon them under the Geneva Convention. Here you can see a brief list of rights and duties that have been provided for POWs under the Geneva Convention. For example, upon capture, POWs should not be exposed to danger while awaiting evacuation from a fighting zone. They should not be sent or detained in a location where they might be exposed to the fire of the combat zone. POWs must be humanely treated at all times. Willful killing of POWs, their ill treatment, torture, willfully causing great suffering, including moral suffering, mental trauma or physical injury, or even depriving them of rights of fair trial, all such acts constitute a war crime. The detaining powers which violate them are liable to be punished as per international law. The Third Geneva Convention explicitly prohibits any reprisal against POWs out of revenge, and they have a right to protect their honor. They must not be subjected to any insults, violence, and the convention explicitly prohibits publicly parading the POWs for propaganda and psychological operations. So they cannot be paraded or interrogated in front of the media, and their images should not be used for political purposes. That's the reason why Ukraine's press conference has been criticized, as it paraded Russian soldiers, that is Russian POWs, in front of the world media. And we had seen a similar incident happening between India and Pakistan as well in 2019, after India carried out the Balkot airstrikes following the Pulwama terror attack. During the Balkot airstrikes, Wing Commander Abhinandan was captured by Pakistan after his fighter jet was shot down. And contrary to the obligations of the Geneva Convention, Pakistan publicly displayed Abhinandan, who was a POW at that point, and released his images and visuals to the media. Then some of you might remember that India had accused Pakistan of violating Geneva Convention and had highlighted this as a war crime. Further, when POWs are questioned, they are only obliged to give their name and rank, date of birth and army serial number, and no other information can be extracted from them through torture or through violence or coercion. The convention provides for additional protection for women and children POWs, along with obligating the detaining power to guarantee basic facilities to POWs, such as food, clothing, shelter, etc. The detaining power should also accord them with basic medical care to ensure their well being, and POWs should also be allowed to practice their religion, to send and receive letters and packages, and even to receive a copy of the Geneva Convention so that they are aware of their rights and duties. They should even be allowed to appoint a representative amongst themselves to highlight their issues to the detaining authorities. And along with all these rights, they have also been obligated with a set of duties. Of course, POWs are subjected to the laws and orders of the detaining power, and they can be tried and punished for any violations, and they are even liable to disciplinary confinement. Now, coming to the Indian context, India ratified the Geneva Convention in 1950 itself and became the fifth country in the world to do so. We were the first country in the region to adopt the Geneva Convention and even implemented the required laws to oblige with the commitments of the Geneva Convention. India also ratified the third protocol, but we are not parties to additional protocols 1 and 2, which deals with armed conflicts of a non-international nature. India has a rich history of working closely with the ICRC, and since the days of the Second World War, India has not only fulfilled its commitments to the Geneva Convention, but has also worked closely with ICRC and provided the required aid and assistance to this NGO to ensure the well-being and the safe return of POWs. We have seen this even during the 1962 India-China War, where both sides released their POWs as per their Geneva Convention obligations. And the same has been followed by India even with its conflicts with Pakistan in 1947, 1965, and 1971. Here it is very important to note that following the liberation of Bangladesh war, India not only defeated Pakistan and broke Pakistan into two parts, but at the end of the war, India held close to 93,000 POWs. But as per the obligations of Geneva Convention, India treated them in the right manner, and under the Shimla Agreement of 1972, India willingly returned all the Pakistani POWs back to Pakistan. But sadly, Pakistan has never reciprocated in this manner because during the Kargil war, Pakistan committed many violations against Indian soldiers and Indian POWs. And the same behavior was seen even recently when Wing Commander Abhinandan was captured by the Pakistani forces. So with this, I would like to conclude today's discussion. And if you're liking these initiatives, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.